Just right under my nose, Jerry. If you don't mind to step up, come over here for me. You gotta get, we can't let you not be on the TV, getting recognized.
Smile at the camera.
You may put me back. You may put me at the end of this. I apologize. We appreciate you. Sharon, you've been nominated and selected as the Employee of the Month winner for the month of April. This recognition is for going beyond the call of duty and meeting many needs of the sheriff's office. One example for receiving this recognition and going above your job responsibilities is the willingness to oversee and manage the various steps in the process for concealed carry permits. Another example would be completing the submissions of criminal information into the National Crime Information Center, which is designed for the rapid exchange of information between criminal justice agencies. You've taken the initiative to complete various certifications, such as the criminal DCI certification, which assists our law enforcement team, as well as supports the office to ensure compliance with the state and federal Bureau of Investigation. We would like to thank you for taking on additional responsibilities for assisting both our law enforcement team and the citizens of Mitchell County, and always having a positive attitude when dealing with the many. Congratulations on being selected as Mitchell County Employee of the Month winner for April. On behalf of the county commissioners in Mitchell County, we'd like to thank you for your support and your contribution to the sheriff's office and the citizens of this county. So I would say, I would add something to that. I don't know if anybody, probably many of you in here have actually worked with Miss Sharon. You know, when I went to renew my concealed carry permit, I didn't really have a clue of what I was doing, but I've got personal hand information that you made that process just nice and easy. So I really appreciated it. So that's surprised to see you here. And I'm not going to be in the paper by myself this week. Everybody and their brother has given me a hard time about being in the paper. So if you'll come stand right here, I'm going to give you your award. And we're going to take a picture as the whole board. I'm tired of this. So I want you to just turn around, stand right here. Board will stand right behind. Now, Marley, you can get all of us in here. There you go. You got in here. You got to get in here, brother. And say, we get lynched, you're going with us.
Yeah, speech.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda tonight is number 10, public comments. I don't see any comment cards, so, or board comments. Any board comments this evening? Hearing or seeing none, we'll move on to the next item for discussion. Item number 11A, architect contract discussion.
So I'll be speaking to that as a county manager. I'm working with Special Projects Manager Lloyd Heiss and consulting with County Attorney Dean Grindstaff. And basically, our goal is to be responsible with your citizenship, and our Board of Commission very conscientious about that in the construction of a police department and that sheriff's department. Get me straight here. So what we're in the process of is we just went through the request for quotes, qualifications, and we've got a primary and secondary architect that we're looking at. And so on April 25th, we had a meeting with Cope, who is the primary architect, and Lloyd Heiss, Special Projects Manager, had a few concerns. We were forwarded a contract. And on the contract, basically, our request for qualifications ask for the geotechnical engineering to be actually completed and overseen as a part of that request. The Cope Construction wants in the contract to kind of have the county take care of that. And, you know, we're apples to apples. We need that to be part of the deal because that's what we went out and we asked for. So that's an extra cost. As a result, Special Projects Manager suggested that we not come to terms with the primary contractor, Cope. His recommendation is we terminate negotiations with Cope for failure to reach an agreement that is fair and reasonable fee, because there's a lot of unknowns in that. And our secondary contractor is Mosley Architects, who has actually said that they will do the implementation. That's part of their deal for that construction. So on that geotech and actually the implementation on that. So that's a lot to talk about. And I know you probably have questions, and I will try to field those on behalf of Lloyd. And like I said, Dean's somewhat familiar with that contract as well.
Dean, is there anything you'd add to that?
Just that the statute is fairly clear, it's 14364. If this, if geotech is not provided in that contract, you're going to have to go through the whole process again, qualification process for anything. It'll be on. Haven't given us a price on that, so there's no way to know that.
And before we can entertain talks with our secondary architect selection, we have to stop talks with the primary architect. So that would be kind of what the purpose is of this being on the agenda, is to whether or not we should stop the talks and go to our secondary.
How long will this process take?
So the process would go like this. If you all vote to stop talks with our primary Cope contract or architect, tomorrow I would send an email to Cope to say we have stopped discussion. And that would green light me to begin to set up an appointment with Mosley. And they would do a meeting in which they discuss their scope of services. If we come to an agreement with them, that's fine. If we do not come to agreement with them, according to Lloyd, we would need to go back into the RFQ. Mosley there was two selections that rang dominant with this commission board on, this was the first day I come into this job, but I saw they had it down to Cope and they had it down to Mosley. So I would hopefully be optimistic that Mosley would have a good chance of maybe getting that, for the fact they did actually have that in their RFQ that they would implement, they would oversee and make sure that the geotech engineering is done correctly. And that's what we need. We don't need to be paying for that with our county funds, because it was our RFQ. So, I mean, that's the reason we don't need.
So basically, they didn't meet what the RFQ requirements were that we put out.
Yeah, that's correct. In the contract, they kind of went back on that and said that you all, the county, will pay for that geotech related items.
We talked to Cope. Lloyd reached out to Cope and asked them to clarify for him on their thing. I mean,
We have not reached out to Cope beyond the meeting. I mean, them being, so I had that question to Lloyd, and so the deal with Cope is that they put in their contracts that they would not have the geotech component to that build. And so Lloyd has kind of become a little bit more critical, I guess, to that contract if they don't have one on staff, because that RFQ didn't specify it would be on staff.
we asked for it in an RFQ and they didn't.
So basically, I'm looking at this letter and this is Lloyd's recommendation as project manager.
That's correct. I gave the commission board, the project manager, Lloyd's Heiss's recommendation based on reading the contract. So when we got the contract back after the April 25th meeting, of course, it went to the legal minds, Lloyd, and Dean Grindstaff, and they both had concerns with that contract. Now, to Steve's point, there is a chance we could discuss with them about our concerns with the contract. And they might could have some further discussion, but the worry is if that isn't something they do, and they're just gonna tack it on as a payment, at what point will that discussion move forward?
So it sounds like, RRQ required to have it on staff and they simply don't. So it's hire one.
No, they didn't meet the RFQ,
Yeah,
basically.
and that seems to be the only solution is gotten hired a geotechnical architect.
I guess technically their bid during their review could have even come back and said they don't meet the qualifications to go forward.
That would be correct. We saw the contract, that was concerned that was never met at the beginning.
We didn't talk about that in the meeting.
We did talk about.
There was something.
There
that
was something
discussed.
mentioned about a geotechnical engineer.
That's the study we did before we purchased the green property out there.
Well, it was the same company that did this up here also,
Catawba, I believe it was.
at
Catawba
the
Engineering.
possible location up on the hill.
Yep.
Because I do remember them saying that they would work with Catawba. They named another company that they'd work for in geotech, but said since we'd used Catawba, they could work with Catawba. But, so,
Yeah, per Lloyd's discussion, it says early in negotiations, I was surprised to learn that Cope did not have on staff or as a consultant any firm or person capable of designing or supervising the installation of the recommendations in the Catawba Valley Geotech Engineering Report. The proposed agreement provides that Cope will retain as consultants a structural engineer, a mechanical engineer, an electrical engineer, and a civil engineer, but no engineer. I question how it can design foundations without a geotech engineer involved in the design process. So that was some of Lloyd's concerns as it relates to Catawba coming in. So we got the site analysis, the geotech report. We need someone that's going to come in and implement that as part of that design process.
So it sounds like we need a motion to terminate the contract with Cope. We haven't got a contract. I guess
Just talks.
terminate talks with Cope and move to Mosley. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a recommendation that we terminate negotiations with Cope and allow the county manager to do that as quick as he can, and then after that, contact Mosley for further appointment with them and interviews. So I put that in form of a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Everybody vote by the usual vote sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the Spruce Pine Town Council / Pine Line discussion, and I think Mrs. Harding, if you will step to the podium. Welcome.
So I'd like to thank you, Steve, and the rest of the commissioners for just hearing us tonight. And I know y'all are working on your budget, as are we. So while we're all working on it, we just wanted to touch base with you and talk to you about the Pine Line. And it's a wonderful asset to Spruce Pine and Mitchell County, thanks to Sheila Blaylock. And I think she does a great job on that. But we're looking at our funding for the next year. And so just the discussion at our town board meeting last Monday night, working on our budget, we wanted to talk to you guys. So the Pine Line is serving businesses in the city limits as well as outside the city limits. A lot of these people are going to work and they're customers of places that they take them to, Walmart, Ingles, pharmacies. So I think we're all sharing in an increased sales tax inside and outside the county. And I mean, just knowing geography, I think it goes without being said that Spruce Pine's kind of the hub, I guess. That's where more things take place. So we do have a lot of Spruce Pine people already paying county property taxes that help support the Pine Line and the other Mitchell County transportation vans. So what we really wanted to ask you for, and all we're talking about right now is when the grant ends in February of 23, then to June, are the numbers that we're looking at. That's correct, isn't it, Sheila? That's the numbers we're looking at. And we're just asking if you guys in your next budget meeting, don't have to decide anything tonight, but if you all would consider it and look at the numbers, I think they're changing a little bit. Sheila did some more work on it, so they've changed a little bit. If you would consider a 50-50 split with us on that to cover from February 23 to June of 23.
What happens in June of 23? Is there?
Well, that's where our budget starts over again anyway. So we're only talking about half of a budget year of 23.
Okay.
So,
23, the cost of timeline. Actually shifts in February. When does the grant run? What's the anticipated cost for those 5 months, Sheila?
well, I have presented to the and 8,700. That's what I have. A breakdown of the what county is looking.
If I remember correctly, when we got the Pine Line up and going, the county was, the agreement at that time was looking at paying for us, the county would pay for the maintenance of the vehicles and that piece of it, but the town would cover the other, right? Is that, I'm saying that, not full, I don't think I'm saying that correct, but correct me on that.
I was hoping that.
How much?
Then we're in a area where we can stop service. Go away.
Do we have data on the riders? How many riders you got it? Okay.
And, on the front, download. Or in March. And I'm not sure I the map of the town. I thought your park was in there, but maybe not.
A very small part.
You're talking about Deer Park Apartments? Yes. I highlighted what I saw for my 8 stops that's in the city. And that will make Wagon Master and Mayland, no. But Wagon Master and Mayland would be my only 2 stops that are not in city limits. Well, need to check on those apartments. Are they all in the city limits?
So then my numbers out here would be right. 683 rides originated in the town of Springtown. And even if that's 692, that's 692 rides in March on the Pine Line. They were getting off, doing business, work, whatever. Because we're really not ready for people. Mainly we're going to school. So, 683 rides, there was something that somehow.
Do
they're
you
doing
take any
something
to
in the
work
city
up
limits.
at,
BRC?
not BRP, but, PRC? Nobody's working up there.
Well, yeah, they're not working,
But I mean, are y'all doing rides up there?
No, we are not.
And I mean, it's a great thing, and for a lot of people, I realize that's the only way they get. But, just something to bear in mind. So if we're in Spruce Pine, we are paying county taxes as well. And it's nothing that we wanted to come over here and say, this is something you've got to decide just while we're all working on our budgets. If you would relook at those numbers and.
So Sheila, how long do you have to replace the Pine Line van?
It's on here as well.
That would look at,
We can.
sit on the one you handed out or the one we got before?
But we've got two papers, we're both on. The one with, the numbers on it's got a breakdown. That these people can be closed. When it reaches 100,000 miles. Yeah, we're gonna be sitting on this.
So the van that we gave that's in current operation, how many miles were on it when we donated? It was a brand new.
What's the hours of operation?
Running from, what starts at 7 o'clock in the morning and and in those hours, we, are picking up, the very first thing he does is pick up a dialysis, which is on Albapass, and takes it. The very last thing he's doing. If he picks up a work. That was one thing, and, everything nationwide is not charging for fares, and you only recoup around 8% of your cost. So if we were charging $1 per ride, we would have collected $690. But then if you look at that cost, counting dollar bills, the collection. So between nationwide, probably that's fair for.
Mavis, how much does the county right now financially put into the pump?
There are some things that not put in the front. shelters and but still maintenance, tires, scheduling software, supplies, drug and alcohol, testing, driving, vehicles, insurance, workman's comp, and our annual training. None of that. Either Sheila had hoped because in a lot of when she got the grant, in a lot of areas larger than us, I mean, I don't know anybody that's tried to fix route in the area smaller than we have yet. But in larger areas, stakeholders, in other words, the people that benefit from this type of transportation, bringing those people into the school, those people fall into the program and they help fund fixed route program. Examples of those. But in this area, until it gets really built up to the point that employers depend on that to get their employees there, or school, and the school has after a couple of years, it's not going to be all. I don't know that she'll ever get there with that program, but you have to realize she's only been operating part of that COVID. So I really do feel like this summer the riders will pick up and hopefully in a few more months, you know, she can see where that can go. I don't know if she'll have stakeholders. So what's going to happen is the next 5 months after the grant ends, she would like you to find more funding, although it is easier to find funding to do a startup on grants than it is to sustain something. Very hard to find money to sustain a program after a grant ends. So either that's her option is to find a grant fund, or the option is for that to be such a the only difference in this type of route is it's fixed route and people can get on it every single day and they know they can go to that stop and go somewhere they need to go. Versus them having to pick up the phone, call Sheila and say, Sheila, I need to go to Walmart next Tuesday. And then she has to schedule that on one of her other buses. Not to say that these people can't find transportation. It's just that this makes it not only easier, makes it easier for people to learn the schedule and to be able to use it. So I would hope that well, hybrid, you know, you had guests that were staying there that wanted to catch the bus to go downtown to Peterson. I would hope in time people would promote it, tell about it. And that's my hope. I don't know that's
So,
the hope.
looking at this breakdown you gave us, if we look at the two industries or employers per se, that could benefit greatly from this by getting workers to their facilities, that would be Ingalls and Walmart, right? All right, so those two employers,
McDonald's, I think,
is it on here?
Quite a few, no, it's not.
Right, okay, but,
So,
all right, so just take Ingalls and Walmart. Ingalls, you had 185 riders. We don't know how many of that 185 was employees going to work, do we?
but, you know, I just, because we can't capture that. It's how, you know, even has.
I don't know the legality of this, so I'm speaking somewhat ignorantly, but thinking outside of the box. This is a great benefit for the county, in particular, the town of Spruce Pine. So the Pine Line is like a rolling billboard. Everybody knows the Pine Line. They see the bus go through, they see the name on it, and so forth. Could you approach, and can we even do this on a government vehicle? Can you approach Ingalls and Walmart and say, we'll put your logo on the side of this vehicle? We're hauling workers to your stores. Give us $3,000. I mean, I'm thinking outside the box, but could you, I mean, it's a rolling billboard for them, right? It's, yeah. You take a hair dryer and you slowly peel it off as you heat it. Yeah.
So, you know, I haven't thought about, do we do the advertising? I don't know. And I, you know, I do know I checked into the grant for Walmart, they will give you about, you know, so there's.
Yeah.
$50,000.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to, this thing for this year, the last 5 months, I would hate to get it.
Right.
or stop it.
No, we don't want to stop it. That's why we should.
That gets her, I think, here, I mean, it's up and going, she spent the first year trying to get it up for the grant. And get it in place. But if she could spend the whole year now, maybe going out to these places, and everybody's looking for workers. Maybe if she went out to some of these places that say, we're looking for help, and give them these and say, you know, when you get these, they don't have rights to work, this is a way to promote it. And say, you know, depending on where they live, we can help with transportation. If they've got employees that need to get to work, maybe if we could build it up enough, some of these people would be willing. I don't know the answer. We've never tried anything like this. This is brand new. I was, Susan can tell you, I was probably maybe thinking the first part.
Well, it is